My name is Father Michael Stala. I am the spiritual director for Hope's Garden. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about fear. There are different kinds of fear. Fear is connected to the word anxiety. Fear can be connected to the instinctual feeling of preservation. Some fear is very good. I perhaps have a fear of heights. As a child, if you have a little bit of fear of heights, you stay away from the edge. That's a good thing. A child without fear of heights plays on the edge and risks falling. So some fear is very good. It keeps us safe. From the experiences of life, or perhaps even just from anxiety, sometimes we have overactive fear that limits our ability to live fully, to live a normal life, a life that you can be holy and happy, but we want to stay safe too. So our goal really is not to eliminate fear completely, but to have fear in check, to have a reasonable amount of fear, the kind of fear that is just risk assessment, ultimately. If there's a person in your life who has been cruel to you in the past, had done something that betrayed you, you might be afraid to trust them again. Guess what? That's normal fear. Yeah, protect yourself. You probably should have a normal level of fear. This person has proven to you that you can't trust them. Now, perhaps they could regain that trust if they've demonstrated that they have changed enough, but that fear right then and there is really your defense mechanism. All right, so that's a normal level. Here's where fear gets into that anxiety level, when it gets to the point of it's debilitating, where it prevents you from being happy and holy and doing the things you want to do. So when you start to notice that I am making decisions that are not based on faith, they are not based on reason, but often based on such a strong level of risk assessment that I am avoiding anything I'm afraid of. I can imagine somebody saying, I won't put in my application for this job out of fear that I won't get the job. Now, maybe you will or maybe you won't, but the fear prevents you from even trying. I'm not going to go to college out of fear that I won't get the good grades. You see, the fear has prevented you from it. Now, what's so wrong about failure? You know what? Life is filled with failures. So what? And when we have too much fear, we just won't risk possibility of failure, which is very debilitating, without the opportunity to take some level of risk, which means some of the times we will fail, then we're never going to have success, because success comes from overcoming risks. And so I have to have a certain level of freedom from fear, without becoming to the point of irresponsible. It would be natural for parents to be somewhat cautious when it comes to their children, to be so cautious as to insist that they wear a helmet every day of their lives is overly cautious. It's preventing them from having a normal life. Is it preventing them from hitting their head? Yes. Is it likely that without the helmet, they will hit their head at some point and probably get hurt? Yes. But it's a reasonable amount of risk. It's an acceptable level so that life can continue on a normal pace. So we keep those anxieties in check. Inside of your heart, you replay a lot of the experiences of your life. And sometimes we replay them so much that they turn into anxieties and fears that are debilitating. Again, let's go back to the scenario where somebody hurt you, somebody said something bad to you, somebody betrayed you in a way that really stung, okay? Now, they only did it once, but you replay that memory in your mind over and over and over and over again. So it feels to you like they've done it 100 times. And if somebody did something bad to you 100 times, you would begin to be really affected by that. They haven't, they've only done it once, but you've replayed it so many times that you felt the pain 100 times. And in feeling that pain 100 times, you've increased your anxiety beyond reason. So you really have to often work with someone else and put it in the context of prayer to see through the truth. When we see through the truth, I can imagine that some people would find a great freedom from that. We don't want to put you in harm's way. We don't want you to do unnecessary risks, but we do want you to live free and holy and happy lives. Somebody who does not have any checks or balances on their fear might say, all men, making a generalization, all men are bad and dangerous. So I will avoid all men. All relationships risk getting my heart hurt. So I will never get close to anyone. These generalizations then limit the possibility of his success, limit the possibility of joy and happiness and holiness. You can see, boom, 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 boom. What can you do to mitigate those fears? Because it is both an emotional and spiritual reality, consider the possibility that the fear is coming not from your experience, but from the tempter. The tempter often uses fear as his primary method. He wants you to say you're in danger. Even if your experience doesn't match that, he wants you to think that. And so we have to take that into consideration. So we renounce fear. Doesn't mean I don't still feel afraid sometimes. It just means that that fear does not have authority over me. Lord, if you call me out onto the water, even though I'm afraid I'll sink, I'm coming out. And even if I start to sink, you're going to grab me. You're going to save me. So I risk it, but only upon your call. I'm not going to go walking out on just any lake and see what happens. If he calls me out there, I'm going. If he doesn't, I'm not. So this is a proper risk assessment. Lord, if you call me into a relationship with somebody, if you call me to be a friend, if you call me to love someone, I'm afraid. I'm afraid to do that. I've been hurt before. It opens myself up to risk. But if you call me, I will go. Because the fear does not have authority over me. I renounce that fear. Oftentimes in spiritual direction, that's a lot of what I look for. I look for fear. When I see fear, I say, remember, we don't follow fear. We follow the Lord. Now, also as a spiritual director, I try to keep them safe in a reasonable amount. We don't want to be irresponsible, and I don't want you to take unnecessary risks. So if somebody was saying, well, my ex-husband drinks and gets violent, do you think I should forgive him and let him move in again? My answer is going to be no. But not because I'm afraid, though I am afraid. There is a fear that this pattern will continue, but simply because the risk assessment says, why would I think things have changed? What has been demonstrated? Is it just wishful thinking that he has changed? Or is there demonstrable evidence that he has changed? And that's the difference. From an objective point of view, forgiveness doesn't mean forget. When we forget things, that's amnesia. That's like I got hit in the head and I forgot. When I forgive somebody, I don't forget that they are flawed and sometimes damaged people, that they've got issues. Out of respect for that person, I try not to set them up for failure. I try not to put them in harm's way. I don't ask the alcoholic to work in a bar. You just don't do that. You say, okay, well, your parameters of living include you're not going to be living in my house because that makes me and my children unsafe. Simple enough. It's not that I hate you. It's not that I'm angry at you. It's not that I'm getting revenge. It's just that there is no evidence that I should think otherwise. You've not changed. And even if you say you've changed, it takes more than just a word. You have to see it. It has to be some sort of demonstrable evidence. So as a spiritual director, I often say, sometimes when we're traumatized, we've had some bad experiences, we have a hard time doing risk assessment. Am I being overly cautious? Am I protecting myself to the point that I can't be happy or holy? Or am I taking super risks because I'm trying to be forgiving? Am I putting myself in harm's way because I think God wants me to forget and forgive? So that's where I come in. And it's really important sometimes to have that confidence. It doesn't have to be a priest. In fact, not all priests are called to be spiritual directors. But to have that person who's able to see in an objective way, where's the risk assessment? How bad is the situation? Because not all fear is bad, but fears in and of themselves can get out of hand. And so I look at the contributing factors and have the factors actually changed? Or are we making generalizations because I've replayed it in my mind so many times that it hurt me 100 times, even though it only happened once? So then those are the kind of factors that we would look for. And counselors, by the way, do a lot of this as well. Counselors would go through the historical. I would go through more of the spiritual side of things, trying to pay attention to what's not only the root, but the ongoing effect of those experiences and how to make decisions in the future. I do want to say also that fear is an emotion, and emotions are real. So we sometimes want to deny emotions. Because emotions are real doesn't mean that they are so powerful that they now control your life. Take, for instance, I'm hungry, but I don't eat. You can do that. You're capable of doing that. You might say, well, hunger is more of a physical thing. Well, yeah, okay. How about I think that looks delicious? Not particularly hungry, but that is a chocolatey bar and I want that. But I deny myself that. We do this every Lent. It's kind of an overcoming of the control that our emotions have over us. If somebody is acting in a very cruel way, we have a responsibility to stop their cruelty. However, that might anger us that they had done that. I don't have a right to act out of anger. It's very, very hard for adults to do this. But when an adult looks to a child, it becomes a little clearer. When the little child is being snippy and says, you're not the boss of me, you got to hold back and be the big person. Now, that doesn't mean you let them walk all over you. They need the rule. Listen, I am the boss of you today, and you're going to obey. But I don't have to take revenge on them. What do I got to do that for? Did they really hurt my pride? That's too delicate of a pride. Let that go. So the emotion of fear doesn't have control over you. You make decisions even while you fear something. A lot of fear is expectations of the future based on your experience in the past. That's a lot of where the fear comes from. So I want you to have that freedom to say, it's just an emotion. It's real. It has an effect on me, but it doesn't control me. I am more in control than my emotions. A person who is not in control of their emotions is immature and, quite frankly, dangerous. Quite frankly, a person you would not want to be with. You have to be in control. You are responsible, even if you're feeling that. So even a soldier has to overcome their fear to say, I got to do my duty for my country and my family. It's just what you got to do. So the emotions are real, but they're not in control. And that's important.